Hi, so it's Jovelyn Empillo, and today we'll discuss about the integumentary system or our skin. The integumentary system is composed of two main types or layers, namely the cutaneous membrane and the subcutaneous membrane. So the cutaneous membrane consists of the epidermis, or the thinnest part of the skin, and the dermis, which is very elastic, and it consists of sensory nerves, glands, and blood vessels. Next is the subcutaneous membrane, which consists of the hypodermis, or it is the storage of fat or lipids, and it is where adipose tissue is, and it consists of large blood vessels. So the functions of our integumentary system is for protection, excretion, temperature maintenance, nutrient storage, vitamin D3 synthesis, and sensory detection. So let's go through the epidermis. The epidermis is made up of epithelial tissues, and it is composed of keratinocytes or skin cells, and it has no direct blood supply. The keratin is a waterproof protein. Our thin skin is composed of 4 layers of strata, or 0.08 millimeters thick, and our thick skin is composed of 5 layers of strata, or 0.5 millimeters thick. So this is our thin skin, which is composed of 0.08 millimeters thick, and this is our thick skin, which is 0.5 millimeters thick. So as you can see in this photo, the upper part or portion is the epidermis and the lower portion is the dermis. So there's a wavy region here. So the wavy region in the epidermis is called the epidermal ridges, and the wavy region on the dermis is called the dermal papilla, which divides the epidermis and the dermis. You probably noticed before that when we take a shower, we don't absorb all the waters that flows into our skin. And it is because of the waterproof protein or our keratin. Functions of our epidermis are to provide mechanical protection, to prevent fluid loss, and to keep microorganisms from invading the body. So our epidermis is composed of 5 layers, namely stratum germinativum, stratum spinosum, stratum granulosum, stratum lucidum, and stratum corneum. So this is the stratum germinativum. The stratum germinativum divides the cells that is going through mitosis. And then the stratum spinosum. The stratum spinosum is the daughter cells, and then the stratum granulosum, it is where the protein starts to accumulate, and then the stratum lucidum, it is flat, densely packed, and completely keratinized. And then the last part, or the outermost part, is the stratum corneum. It is dead, dehydrated, completely keratinized, and it consists of 15 to 30 layers of keratinized cells. It is about 15 to 30 days from stratum germinativum to move to stratum corneum. So our skin color depends on our blood supply, the amount of keratin and melanin in our body, and then epidermal pigmentation. So when we eat too much carrots, we will become orange, but then when we eat less, our skin color will go back to its normal color. Keratin is rich in vitamin A, and it is an orange yellow pigment, while melanin is a brown-black pigment. Melanocytes produce melanin and protect us from ultraviolet radiation. Ultraviolet radiation causes mutation that may result to cancer cells. So it is good that we have melanin or lots of melanin in our body. Next is the epidermal pigmentation. Interrupted blood supply leads to cyanosis. Cyanosis is a bluish or purplish discoloration as of skin due to deficient oxygenation of the blood. So, to prevent from having skin cancer, we can use sunscreen, sunblock, or titanium dioxide. The sunscreen screens us or our skin from ultraviolet light. The sunblock blocks the ultraviolet light. And then titanium dioxide is a good type of sunscreen. It is an SPF 15. So our epidermal cells synthesize vitamin D3 or cholecalciferol when exposed to ultraviolet radiation. It responds to epidermal growth factor, which are growth, division, repair, and secretion. It is important that we have vitamin D in our body to absorb calcium. So our papillary layer contains blood vessels, lymphatics, sensory nerves of epidermis, and then the reticular layer contains network of collagen and elastic fibers to resist tension. It is the reason why when we pull our skin, it will only bounce back. Next is the stretch marks. Stretch marks is caused by excessive stretching of the dermis. It is a pattern of collagen and elastic fibers that forms lines of cleavage. So, for instance, you have an appendicitis, and then these are your lines of cleavage. If the surgeon will have a cut along with your lines of cleavage or like this, what might happen is the wound may heal easily and it will not get infected. But if the surgeon will make an incision opposite to your lines of cleavage or like this, what will happen is the wound may reopen and it might get infected. So, the subcutaneous layer. The subcutaneous layer is found in the hypodermis. It stabilizes skin position against underlying organs and tissues. So, this is our hair. So, our hairs originate in hair follicle. It is composed of roots and hair shaft. And the root base or the hair papilla is surrounded by hair bulb and root hair plexus. So hairs have soft medulla or soft keratin and hard cortex or hard keratin. So the cuticle here is a superficial dead protective layer. So our sebaceous gland produces the oil of the hair. So we have hair types. First is the vellus hair or the pitch fuzz. It is found in the most of our body. Next is the terminal hairs or heavy hairs. These are the hairs in our head, eyebrows, eyelash, and nose. And then the club hair or the cessation of growth. It is when the hair stops growing or the follicle that does not produce hair. Shed and grow according to hair growth cycle. And then the erector pili muscle attaches to hair. So we have glands in the skin, the sebaceous gland or oil glands. So it produces waxy sebum or oil which moisturizes and protects the skin. And then next is sudoriferous or sweat glands. So it is composed of two glands, which are the apocrine and the merocrine. The apocrine sweat glands is the odorous secretion. It is associated with hair. And then the merocrine or eccrine sweat gland is a sensible respiration, and it is not associated with hair. Next is the mammary gland. The mammary gland produces milk. It is similar to apocrine sweat glands. Lastly, the ceruminous or earwax glands. In ear, it produces waxy cerumen. So when we age, our skin or our integument thins, and so our blood flow decreases, which means repair occurs more slowly. So this is Jovelyn Empillo again, and today we will discuss about the urinary system and how our urine is formed.
The chief organ in the urinary system is the kidneys. It performs tests including the regulation of water volume, concentration of various solutes in the water, blood pH levels, as well as the production of erythropoietin. But the functions that will be important for the urinary system: constant filtering of the bloodstream, removing toxins and waste, returning necessary components back to the blood. The urinary system also includes the ureters, urinary bladder, and the urethra, which we will discuss later. But first, let's spend some time looking at the kidneys. We all have two bean-shaped kidneys, and they sit in the lumbar region protected by the rib cage, which has a vertical cleft, the renal hilum that leads to a renal sinus within the kidney. It is here that the ureter adjoins, with blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, and nerves. On top of each kidney, we can find adrenal gland. Its function is not directly related. Supportive tissue surrounds each kidney. This is made of 3 layers. Is the outermost renal fascia, dense fibrous connective tissue secures the kidneys in place. Then the perirenal fat capsule that cushions, and then the fibrous capsule prevents infections from spreading to the kidney. Inside, we continue to find the renal cortex and the renal medulla. It consists of renal pyramids, each with a papilla that points towards. These are separated renal columns made by cortical tissues. Center, we see renal pelvis, which connects the ureter. It also has branching extensions called calyces. These are the areas that collect urines. Papillae, which then goes into the ureter. Also notice these renal arteries splits into segmental arteries and then lobal arteries, arcuate arteries, cortical radiate artery. Supplies the blood that the kidney will filter. It enters the renal cortex. This process is complete. Cleansed blood leaves through the cortical radiate veins, go to arcuate veins, then interlobar vein, renal veins. Exit the kidneys, empty into the vena cava. Filtration occurs in tiny units called nephrons, which consists of a renal corpuscle in the renal cortex, a renal tubule that extends there into the medulla and then back cortex. So contains a bunch of capillaries called glomerulus. It's in the glomerular capsule. from the bloodstreams into the capsule to the renal tubule. This tubule has three sections: the proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, and a distal convoluted tubule. Filtrate will pass through all of these, being processed, absorbing water and solute to bring back to bloodstream. What is left after this? Empty into a collecting duct, of which collect filtrates from many tubules run down the medullary pyramid, using as they go, delivering urine to calycines. Exactly is the urine produced? A three-step process. It begins with filtration, takes place in the renal corpuscle, is forced through a filtration membrane to a glomerular capsule. Membrane allow water and solutes to pass, protein or anything larger, especially in cells. Step is reabsorption. The filtrate goes back into the blood like glucose. It's in most of the water. Whatever it doesn't get back in will become urine. Third step is secretion. This is the opposite, reabsorption. Of blood join filtrate like drugs, metabolites, potassium, and etc. Urine will be the combination of the substances that will filtered, substances that were secreted. And urine is entirely water, but contains lots of urea, the result of the breakdown of amino acids, as well as other nitrogenous wastes, like uric acid. There are also ionic solutes like sodium, potassium, phosphate, and sulfate. Once the urine has been produced, it has to leave ureters under tubes that transports urine from the kidneys to the bladder until its immediate release from the body. Walls of the ureters are made of three layers: mucosa, made of epithelium; a muscularis, made of smooth muscle; and adventitia, made of fibrous connective tissue. The bladder is a highly flexible muscular sac, a region called the trigone, which continues onto the urethra.